Okay. So I don't think I have that download, and I'm actually that's worth checking. And maybe I'll open an issue for this. I don't think the download link actually works. I think when I remember editing the menu, I don't think the download current progress button will work. Maybe accidentally leave it. All right, that's a bug. What? It does seem like a useful thing. I mean, this is the kind of situation where it's helpful to let people download what they have. Okay, so I just had gotten, I'm going to make sure I don't keep anything open from our last troubleshooting session, but I was just looking through, I think we have like the go ahead to do some centralized logging and monitoring. We're talking about using Hoodoo for centralized monitoring and storing passwords. And it does still feel like there's no good free password management tools that have the kind of structure that helps you easily. Like there's just Bag of Passwords, which is Bitwarden. We could run our own Bitwarden, but we wouldn't have anything better other than a paid option. So I'm sorry, okay. I'm jumping right in. So I'm just thinking like through what are our jobs? We want to do storing good documentation of systems. And I think once you want to start storing passwords along with that documentation, there's no like roll your own option that I think is as good as Hoodoo.
Yes.
That I have seen. Like you can use the free tier of Confluence, but you're basically in the build your own situation. So like we're really just paying for like someone figured out how to organize this in a way that's easy to view later. It's not like storing bits of text is a hard problem, but coming up with a good user interface for it that you can find what you added months later, that is hard and arguably, I guess, worth paying like $500 a year for out of our server budget. A little bit of insurance, and it's probably going to cost less than save us more than 5 hours of time over the course of a year. That's my hope.
Yes.
When it comes to monitoring, like the price logging and monitoring, there's really basic features in Hoodoo for monitoring. Those aren't really amazing, but they're, I think, good enough. So the question is, like, when we look at centralized logging, which Hoodoo does not do at all,
that's a different thing.
Do we try to think about logging and monitoring as one task, or just say we're only going to care about logging because the monitoring is good enough in Hoodoo, or at least the uptime monitoring? It's really all that we get, just uptime.
I feel like it can be separate. Like I don't feel like monitoring is not super useful unless it's actionable, and uptime monitoring is the most uptime monitoring, and like air stuff from DocAssemble are arguably the only two like actionable things that we can do stuff with. Like we aren't running flexibly enough to be like have monitoring be like, oh, your CPU is high, spin up another server. Like we're just not running that scale, or in a way to work with that sort of scale stuff. So I don't think it. I think just the monitoring we have, plus like is fine enough, and logging is a different thing that we could also consider. Yeah.
So I was looking at. I just asked ChatGPT for some advice, which obviously is like 2 years old, but I looked at it. It still seemed to be pretty accurate. So there's basically Grafana, which I'm very familiar with in as far as name recognition goes. They have two tools, Prometheus, which is more an alerting focused tool, and then Loki, which have open source. They both have an open source core. And I asked it to make me a Docker compose file so we could run them all on one light sale instance, the $20 a month instance, it
That's what
will work.
A
What would?
separate one from, do you mean a separate one from the Docker symbol one? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, sorry.
yeah. We don't want our
That was the first
monitoring
thing
tools
yeah.
to be on the same server as the things we're monitoring.
Making sure that I
That's
was
the
understanding
basics.
that right. Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's definitely got to be a different service. And then I think similarly with Hoodoo, we'd want a different. We probably could try to co-host those with Hoodoo, but I don't see a good reason to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
Okay.
feels like we could try because they probably are like Hoodoo, like when you click on a screen, you need all that CPU power, but I'm guessing like when it's just doing its thing on a regular basis, like it's just like chugging along and doesn't need anything resource wise. But again, I think we just pay the $20 a month.
I think that
So
sounds fine, yeah.
I guess the question is it worth trying to get the setup now? Yes, that's basically where I am. We could start playing around with this stuff now, but it's a distraction from other things that we can do that are user facing. But like, was this a good signal that maybe we should do it sooner? I mean, the one thing would be like having centralized logging. Would let you do some of the things we were trying to do by digging around on the server, and you would just happen to have a backup of them when the server was offline, right?
Yeah.
So it would be nice if we didn't have to rely on that. But is it worth trying this now? I mean, trying a Docker Compose is not too big of a deal. If this Compose works, we can just say, all right, great. And if it doesn't, we can just decide we're not going to troubleshoot it a lot.
That's not a bad idea. Does the Docker symbol server stuff or the log server stuff work with this by default?
I believe Docassemble lets you use a syslog server. That's like the baseline for Linux log.
Yeah, just as it says TCP port 514. I do not know. That's
let's see what
default or anything.
Oh, I think you can configure the logs, so the port for the logging, but I'm just going to just see if it said anything about syslog.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's supported.
Doesn't look like it's configurable, at least it's not documented if it is. Oh, it's just a different thing. Okay. Am I reading this right? That this is only Docker symbol logs?
Yeah, what logs, other logs we want to have?
Worker, which I don't know if that's considered Docker symbol logs. It's not the Docker symbol.log. But the worker one is useful.
For sure.
Air.log, which is a separate thing. UWSGI, which is a separate one or separate file. Access is sometimes useful, but not too much.
Well, I think it's any logs that go in
Basics,
the
but
user share Docassemble log directory.
most of those are I don't know which ones go in there. I
It
don't
includes
think
worker.log and it includes the access log. Because that
it does.
it says
Okay.
here there's an Nginx configuration that's part of this.
Okay.
So I think that's telling us that it is logging out more things.
Okay, that's fair. I'm used to I know the init logs go all over the place, and most of them
Yeah.
are not in Dockersymbol.log, but I guess once it's started, everything is fine.
Yeah, that's not as necessarily as helpful to see unless there's things that could happen on a kind of a more scheduled way. I don't really know if that is true or not.
Okay.
Like, if supervisor, if a service isn't healthy, does it automatically try to restart? Would that create any logs that we would want to capture?
Um, I don't think so.
And the other question is, could we do this in a single server configuration? Because this says in a multi-server configuration. That's the beginning of the message. I guess we could look at the doc assembly.
Well, the other page that I had open is just it's the configs itself, and that doesn't mention anything about multi-server stuff. It just says,
oh, okay.
If it's set, it will write log messages to TCP port 145 on that host name instead of writing them to user/share/docassemble/log. That one says /docassemble.log specifically, but
Good. I got it.
But yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, let's see if we can figure it out.
Yeah.
From looking at the source, things you often have to.
Yeah.
All right, so, all right, I was starting to do a Hoodoo setup, which feels like a little, I was like, oh, well, is that even the right choice? Because I guess like, but you know what? You need a place to store that kind of free form documentation. But I know when people are doing like DevOps stuff and they're like automating deployment, they're not necessarily wanting to use a place where they've written nodes. They want to just have configurations that are automated that can be reused.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think we're DevOps yet.
Yeah.
We need a lot of infrastructure for all that, and we just don't have it.
No, I think you're right. It's like at least like Terraform or something like that, right? But
yeah,
I think
like we could start looking into Helm and like not a multi-server setup, but like a Docassemble split up into Helm. But yeah, it'd be a lot more expensive. It'd be a lot of things.
Since I think it maybe is because of doesn't really tell me anything about it. Well, I think this is telling us here, right? This is the files that are handled by syslog. So I think this is the thing that's telling us what we need to know.
Okay, then that is most of what we want. It's not access.
It actually includes the supervisor.
Oh, it is access. Okay, cool. That's nice.
Yeah. Okay. So I like the idea of this, the description of this Loki system, which is that it's simple to configure for smaller deployments. easy to use. This seems to be helpful for us. So I have heard of this stack. People talk about LP. Elasticsearch. I forget what the L and the K stand for. I mean, there's always, so tools can consume time or they can save time. I'm not sure exactly where this will be, but I think it's worth trying it. Do you have any other questions or thoughts that are worth talking about live?
I mean, I don't really think so. It's like sure, it might be a good idea, but I am focused on the other things.
Yeah,
And I guess if we get this up and we like it, then I can do my best to try and make it work with the e-file proxy stuff as well, since that would be like a very nice use case for this.
yeah.
Like I can see it being useful. It's just not a thing that I think I will be able to like prioritize and sink a week into.
Actually, what also would be nice would be it could let us more. We have this email box for getting error messages from DocAssemble, but those go into the log file too. So maybe we like monitoring the log file for those error messages might be a different way to help us
No, it just
be aware of errors on production.
was Loki the alerting monitoring one, or is that Prometheus?
Well, let's check this.
I guess it doesn't. I guess the alerting monitoring isn't the thing, and it's more of if we can consistently check it. Like if we get the log, if we get the email, and then we just go to Loki and we can get the same information, that's probably good enough.
I mean, it's either it's Loki or it's the Prometheus tool
Mhm.
or in Grafana. I mean, essentially, it looks like you might use these stacks together.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's some alerting you can do in place too.
Okay.
I'm not sure how easy all this ends up being to configure. I mean, like it's tricky with our size org, right? Like the question is like, do we need this tool or is it gonna take more time for us to manage than to do it the manual way? But I really like the idea
Yeah.
of configuring.
I still think that the only thing, like I was going through all the logs, it was a little annoying and it took me like 5 or 10 extra minutes to like download each individual DocAssemble log and then go to the right place and then look back and then copy them all to a separate file to do it. But it was like 5 to 10 minutes, which is important, but like making a tool that cuts that down to like 1 or 2 minutes is not the main limiting factor. The main limiting factor is we aren't awake at 1 a.m. to do this, and we don't have someone on call to do this. And so I think the biggest thing that this would get us is like, if something's not responsive, we can go into the logs and see what might be happening before we like restart the server and potentially lose data like we have to sort of. That's the only thing that I think is like, this is necessary for and is the biggest benefit. And if that we think is good, is like useful enough, then we should consider it. But I don't think like a lot of the searching or the indexing or the monitoring is really like the use case there.
Yeah, okay. I think that makes sense that we're focusing on just the, hey, Michelle. We were just saying, we weren't sure we are going to stream anything. And then we're like, oh, I bet Michelle's going to want to see this recording later. Aloha.
You're muted.
I might not have a lot of time to stick around, so I
That's fair.
maybe still.
Pretty early in the morning for you, huh?
It is, but like some of my family is trying to stay on their like home time zone. So
Oh,
they're getting up
okay.
super early.
That's interesting. It's gonna be challenging, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? It's up to them. We were just talking about, we had an outage on the server, so we were just figuring out, continuing our conversation from last week,
Okay.
what processes and systems we should have in place to avoid that. And I think we've done a little research to figure out a centralized logging tool that might be helpful for us.
Cool.
Yeah, we haven't touched on any coding stuff. It's just been sysadmin stuff.
Okay.
All right. Well, oh, unrelated question. I was trying to configure. All right. I had local VN for running automated tests working at one point, and then I think I broke them because I was trying to move some things out of the assembly line directory, so like DA install worked faster. I think I showed that to you last week, Bryce, how slow it was. I was like, oh, it's because we're trying to upload 1.3 gigabytes of cached pip stuff. Mind taking a second to look at my setup, figure out why I broke my test somehow. Okay. Maybe you'll remember off the top of your head. Okay, so I have my VN here. I created a new VN under the folder VN.
Mhm.
I go into DocAssemble.
Is it gonna have
I did a source.
private stuff? Do you wanna pause your?
No, this is just
Okay.
the assembly line directory.
Okay.
Right, that's what I should do to activate. And
Mhm.
got all the DocAssemble packages installed.
It freeze.
My error isn't about DocAssemble anyway. It's
Probably older versions, but yeah, go ahead. Wait, did you said you just moved it?
no, I
Okay.
deleted it and then I created a new one.
Okay, sorry. Make sure I
I
understand.
did try that first, but I realized
Moving
quickly
will
that
not
wasn't
work.
going to work.
It hard codes all of their paths. It's weird.
Yeah.
Was assembly line there? I didn't see it.
Do I have to install assembly line? Because I want to do the unit
You do.
test for, I have to install assembly line to test assembly line, even if it's the package I'm testing.
How do we refer to packages in it?
Well, yeah, that's why I was like, I know I could change maybe all right, so inside the tests, there are all of these local references, right? Local import references. It should be local.
I don't know if they're all local. They might be.
All right, so you think
Probably
maybe
should
just
be.
doing a pip install docassemble.assembly line?
Yeah, I don't remember what
Did you do that?
exactly it needs.
To test assembly line? Because it should. I feel like
What's
then I
the
won't know what I'm
action?
testing.
What does the action script look like?
You're saying just to
Let me see
compare
what I
how
actually
that handles it?
run.
Mhm.
Let me see what I actually end up running for this anyway, because I'm not sure.
So I feel like I had this working unit test discover before, but it's possible I installed assembly line. I'm trying to recreate my
Also,
tests.
Do you know what version of Python? You're probably using 3 automatically.
It's Python 3 for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's 3.10, 3.8.
Oh, do a dot at the end of the name. Do Python -m unit test discover dot. I don't know what it does without that, but I know the dot is like no. Okay, whatever.
No, I don't usually need that either, but doesn't mean that I was doing it the way that will work with moving the VM. I'm not sure
If you
why.
do, if you do
even
pip
included.
if you do pip install editable, it's like you won't have to worry about it like testing different versions or whatever.
Oh, good point. Well, this just points to the other action. But I guess I could look at that to see
The other action just does dot, I'm pretty sure.
unit test discovered
don't-
with the dot.
I don't do anything special in AL actions really.
Okay. So I did, yeah, pip-r requirements.txt
Yeah,
to get everything in there. And then in the test files, which test does it say is failing? I mean, this is
well, it's just failing to load it. Like it's not like a specific test. It's you. I don't remember what unit test does. Discover does weird things, and I never know why. It feels like it should be much easier than it actually is. All that to say, I would just try pip install editable.
but then, okay, it's going to be relative to the import. Relative to the end, I mean.
What do you mean? Sorry.
When I do install editable, it's only relative to this VM, if not system-wide.
Yes, yeah.
So it really is good enough for what I'm trying to do. Okay. But I do have to be aware that if I run a test in another package, it's going to use this version of assembly line rather than the stock version. I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you need the is unit test environment variable?
No, well,
That
that
at
you
all-
might, but that's not what's happening here, I think. As unit test is our
Right.
creation, I think. I don't think it's something
Right.
that unit test does. Unless
Yeah,
I'm
I'm gonna move out of the way. Hold on.
Well, I'm just gonna put the action link in here.
Let's see if this works. All right, I'm gonna actually, like I said, I'll move. Actually do what I'm gonna say.
What does -e do? Pip install -e
editable.
editable. Sorry, I was
So
missing that
which-
part of the conversation.
No, you're good. And editable just means it doesn't like make a copy and put it in the install directory. It just makes a, I think it's a, well, it's not actually like a syslink, but it puts a bunch of information there so Python knows, oh, just run this code somewhere else on the machine, and it points to that same directory. So
Okay.
this looks like they're running because it's taking a nuts long time, and Docassemble always does.
Promising. It does do pip install. I mean, it's doing what you're doing. Though you missed -r period -r find dot
He already
dash name
did that. I think.
requirements dot. Oh, he did that before.
Yeah, that was. I think he said he did ran install requirements, which is that pip install -r requirements. It does.
I see.
It just finds anything in the folder or anything in the repo that's has requirements.txt. Oh, and
Okay.
did he intend to leave? I thought
He
was just hopping
intended
off
to
for-
move, so maybe to
Oh, okay,
another
okay.
machine.
No, okay, no, sorry. I think I missed. I thought he just said he was hopping off for a second. I didn't realize he was
Okay.
moving. So I guess we'll wait
Okay.
until that works.
I've been trying to get, just because I haven't had really bandwidth for anything else, trying to get Chat GPT to write. It'll kill him. Like tests and steps and stuff.
Sorry, guys.
Interesting. Hey,
All is forgiven.
All right, what I'm getting now is an error with running NLTK, which I think means it's working.
yeah, and it means DocAssemble's trying to load because it loads a bunch of NLTK stuff by default. I don't know what error you would be getting.
Oh, it was because I just moved outside. I think it just was like a network error.
Oh, yeah, it downloads a bunch of stuff by default when it first starts. Like multi-gig files. So
Is it
That'll
just
be
the
like-
first time you run the unit test?
yes, it loads them and it also takes like 10 seconds to load each time, but it does only download them once, I think.
All right, well, let's see if this works. I think I had the same problem though when I was testing any arbitrary package with the same VN,
Okay.
which makes me
Yeah.
think there's something that I'm doing wrong still.
Well, it's something to have, it has to do with like how DocAssemble or sorry, how unit test like looks for modules.
Yeah,
You might be able to get around it by just like if you just directly run unit test discover like DocAssemble / assembly line, like if you point it to the module folder and say everything is in here, essentially, like you don't need to discover anything else elsewhere. I think that works, but it's something about calling it at a higher folder that screws it up somehow. I remember looking into this and just being confused and frustrated, and then it started working again. I'm not sure how, but
I thought it was the other way around, like where like I tried doing it for a while and it wasn't working until I used a VN and I ran it from the top level directory. But let me try another one where I was trying to add a unit test and test it quickly, because it's very much of a pain to try to have to run through GitHub before you can test.
mhm.
Yeah.
To do a unit test, this really shouldn't be necessary. Yeah, see now I get an error. Let me see. Different error actually. This is telling me import error, attempted relative import with no known parent package, which might be my problem here that I created the issue. Versus in trying to see that's different to how we test it. No, that's the exact way we do other imports in other packages in the test file. Well, if something occurs to you, if you remember anything else about
Sorry,
it,
what
just
did
let
you
me know.
say with what did you say was the like error again with it with the import?
The error I'm getting, this is in a different project, is import error, attempted relative import with no known parent package. That's when I try to specify the path.
Oh, that's probably why. Try just DocAssemble instead of the full path, maybe. That's an issue of like you can't. Yeah, like relative imports just don't work if it tries to load the Python file directly. It tries to load it through some thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is a good point. I don't think I tried the intermediate directory of just DocAssemble.
Yeah. Sorry,
try
that's just me telling you wrong things because I'm flail when I do this a lot.
Maybe I just had to remember where I run the test from before. Maybe that's what I was doing before. Okay, that fixed it. That was the issue. I had to run it from the DocAssemble directory, not from the topmost directory.
Cool. Okay,
All right,
good to know that
thank you.
fixes it. No problem.
And now I just have to fix all of my test cases that fail. That's okay.
Cool.
All right.
Sounds good.
just from mocking stuff. Trying to figure out how to mock DA date time, by the way, but I'll have to figure that out on my own probably. Because
That'd be pretty nice.
when I try to import DA date time from a unit test, I get different errors because of things DocAssemble tries to do with the server and initializing threads and various things that happen with imports that are really annoying.
Yeah, no, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
Um,
That would be great.
That'd be
if that's
nice.
the kind of stuff
You can-
Access fix.
I'm not sure if it's, I guess if it's like code we're using, it needs to use DA date time. I feel like most of the places that it's used internally, you can just use date time. But if it's like our code that's expecting whatever extra APIs, then it won't work. So
That is the problem. Like I
Yeah.
need the extra APIs. There's no like dot plus and there's
yeah,
no ordinal comparison. Those rely on, those are specific to DA date time class.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, good luck
All right,
doing
thanks.
that. If you make progress, let me know because I'd be curious to see what we can do because that causes me problems everywhere. And those are the type
Yeah.
of changes that Jonathan, I don't think, accepts of just like, oh, refactor to refactor things. So
It is in Ammo HUD eviction project, which is an open source project, Missouri
Okay.
eviction project that I'm working on. Just trying to come up with some tests to make sure our defenses are legally correct. I'll share it with you if I get it working.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, Michelle, have fun. Do you like the beach? I'll stop the stream. Are we already stopped?